No.
Okay, so I guess
They've just seen me do this.
So everybody, there are a lot of changes today. So if you are on board and you are now watching us,
Yes, as you all should be.
welcome to episode 319 of Pero Let Me Tell You. And things look a little differently today.
Well, first of all, there's something to look at.
There is something to look at. Well, no, because sometimes our listeners have little snippets of videos that we take and we post with our phones in our makeshift studio.
Yes.
But you're listening, laugh, learn, and looking this time. So welcome everybody to
our first Cultura Talks.
official Cultura Media House and Cultura Talks. It's official now, baby.
Yes, it is. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Oh, we have sound effects now. Okay, guys, that's because we have producers.
We have producers now. We've moved on up. We're in a studio. We have lighting. Look at all this lighting.
A set?
We have a set and we have producers. So I think we got to give it up to our producers.
Yes, we got to do like in a concert where they're like, and now it's time to introduce the band.
So a big shout out to Junior, who is our producer today. And Chris, who is also our producer. I mean, we went from us being the producers to now having a production team.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
I'm not sure how we got here, but here we are at episode 319.
I will say the weirdest thing right now, though, is like I'm trying to figure out the balance of like looking at you while I speak and looking at the camera and looking at that one and looking at like
there's. I feel like this is like how they filmed The Matrix, right? The scene where Neo, when they were filming it, they had like 50 cameras around. I was gonna say around Neo.
See,
around Keanu Reeves.
I was actually gonna say it's like when they pioneered live television with Desi Arnaz and I Love Lucy.
Well, I was thinking more of The Matrix.
Yeah.
A little more modern.
Yeah. Slightly.
So we're finally having Pero Let Me Tell You on video, which is something we've always wanted to do. Since our very first episode, we wanted to do a video podcast. That was actually the original idea to do a video podcast. But since the whole production staff of Pero Let Me Tell You was us two, and I mean, I remember when we started in our first episode, I learned what reverb was. I didn't know what reverb was before.
Oh, we did.
And I quite say this story that the first few episodes of Pero Let Me Tell You were recorded at Ish's apartment. And Ish's apartment, it's not even that it's big, but it has like high-ish ceilings. His living room area is not really cluttered, so it's a little bit echoey. We were filming next to a window, which is glass, which is a no-no. It was an echoey room, wooden floor. There was the sound was bouncing everywhere, and we thought this is a great place to do an audio podcast, and
the fact that you guys came back,
yes,
says a lot.
I listened to our first episode now, and I'm like, oh my god, who listened to the end of that? But then we learned, and then we moved to the studio. We actually made a studio at my house and my kids' like sort of old playroom. We sort of made it a studio. We padded it.
I was gonna say, remember when we
hung comforters? Like there was a time that we hung 4 comforters around the room, and I mean it sounded legit.
Yeah.
I mean we did the best we could with what we had, but here we are in a real studio at Cultura Media House with real producers, real cameras, lighting, and all that art. So,
a fake tree.
So here we are, everybody. And we are super excited at this new sort of era of the podcast. That's the word kids do nowadays, era.
Is it really?
Well, yeah. Everybody says this is a new era.
Oh, okay.
Hence the Eras tour.
Oh, well, I mean, I just thought that was just Taylor being Taylor,
No, like that's a term that's really used by young people now. Like, oh, this is a new era, or this is the end of an era.
That's right. I'm in my blank era.
I'm in my blank era.
Yes,
Yeah. I mean, don't make yourself sound ancient.
No. It's just that way in the context of like, I'm in my blank era, it clicked all of a sudden.
So we're obviously really, really excited to be here today, but it is sort of bittersweet because we're starting this new era of the podcast and what is supposed to be a really, really good and exciting moment for us. And we're sort of in a bit of a jam here with Hurricane Milton. Yeah. And for full disclosure, we are recording our episode today a little bit earlier than we usually do. It's not Fake Friday. It's sort of like Fake Tuesday.
We're in the time machine today.
We usually record what we call Fake Friday, which usually is Thursday. But many times we finish recording after midnight, so it is Friday.
Technically, yes.
It is Friday. But we're recording a little bit earlier than usual. So Hurricane Milton has not hit by the time that this airs in a couple of days. The hurricane probably already hit, but obviously we've been following it just like everybody else, and it's a monster of a storm.
It's crazy.
So there's certainly going to be, unfortunately, devastation and flooding and a lot of loss, and
in areas that were just hit by Helene.
Yeah, and it's just
also, you know what it is?
It's really unfortunate that we've, as a state, have gone through this twice, and thankfully Miami's not going to get, or South Florida, the brunt of it, but it doesn't matter. Our state is, so it still affects us, almost like if it was hitting us directly. So, our hearts go out to everybody who's being affected by this, especially to the people in Central Florida, Tampa, the west coast of Florida. Those are very vulnerable communities in terms of where they are in the landscape, the topography, and they expect flooding in addition to obviously wind damage. But here in Florida, obviously we're taking precautions as well. Here in the studio, there's sandbags and all that because this is a huge storm. Obviously
the surge is really the big concern. Yeah.
So obviously,
una tormenta que se llama Milton.
I know, right?
It's like such a nerd name.
It's funny. Well, not funny. I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. Well, no, like in August. And she's not from Florida. She's from the Midwest. And she sort of was telling me like, oh, it's the end of summer. Like you guys are out of hurricane season. I'm like, out of hurricane season. Ahora cuando la cosa se pone buena.
Yes, ma'am.
Ahora, now come September, that's when the greatest hits come. Yeah. Now it's like when it's like one after another and like the big boys.
Yeah.
It's just, look, I think that when you live in Florida or in hurricane prone areas, that this is something that literally comes with the territory. And I think that's why with like Hurricane Helene, places like Asheville were so devastated because people there, when does hurricane hit Asheville? I don't think at least that I can think of a hurricane had never really hit Asheville. I'm not saying a hurricane has never hit Asheville, but I don't ever recall like major catastrophic damage done in Asheville, North Carolina. Usually it's like Charleston and all that because it's coastal. But here in Florida, we're sort of used to this, but even though we're used to it, you're never prepared enough. And there's certain things you just cannot prepare for.
No, and this, again, as used to it as we are or think we are, this at one point was a Category 5. Like they thought it was going
went up
to
again
hit.
to a Category 5.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, today it's been going back and forth between 4 and 5.
Shit. Because that's Category 5. And like what, it has a very small eye and it's everything is set up to be like just the worst conditions possible for destruction's sake,
And look, when you live in Florida, it's not that hurricanes become a joke because they don't. We take them seriously, but it's like, oh, another hurricane's coming, or another storm, or oh, run to Home Depot, run to Publix. Everybody, gets the water. Although I've never seen the water. We've lived through many hurricanes, big and small. The water has never disappeared. Like they're still running water, and there's never been a situation where they're like, boil your water, but somehow water.
Just in case.
But anyway, and toilet paper. We're used to this. We've been through this 1,000 times. But listen, it doesn't matter how prepared you are, what plan you have. When you have a monster of a Category 4 or 5 coming your way, you literally got to brace for impact because I mean, obviously, if you need to evacuate and you need to do all those things, you should. But whether you go to a shelter or ride it out at your home, even if you have hurricane shutters, impact-resistant windows, water generators, and all that, it's still just a terrible experience. And it's our hearts go out to everybody who's being affected by this. And yeah, it's just these things are getting bigger and worse. And it's so funny that my kid tells me like, and then I thought back of when I was a kid. My kid tells me like, are we gonna take the day off for school? Like, I don't want to go to school. Can the hurricane come? And I'm like, well, we're still waiting, and the school has been canceled here in Miami-Dade County. But I remember being a kid and being like, can we like get off from school? And now that I'm an adult and a homeowner, I'm kind of like, que se vaya el huracán.
The insurance premiums.
Yes, in addition to the devastation and potential loss of life, it's like, oh my god, now there comes the insurance premiums.
Yeah,
que ya vamos malo por ahí.
El oro no estaba pastelito as it is.
But I will say that last week we did a collection and a drive for the victims of Hurricane Helene. So we were able to get a lot of things that people donated. So thank you to those who came to our drive. We may have to do another one. So you'll hear it here first.
Yeah, keep your
You'll hear it here
first.
first.
We might be doing another one sooner than later.
Because unfortunately, I mean, this is a back-to-back hurricane situation. This is sort of, I think, in 2005, it was like Miami got hit by Katrina and then Wilma.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, like sort of back-to-back.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
that was a downer to our
that was
premiere.
A bit of a downer. I know.
But let me tell you,
and I wanted to follow up with something that was like hurricane related, but I don't know if I want to at this point. Like, it's just one of those,
Or are you going to follow up on?
Well, okay. So I saw this this repost on Instagram, and it's a post. I think he posted it on Facebook from a meteorologist called James Spann, Spann. And he says, dear Americans, professional meteorologists are tired. Another major hurricane has formed and is headed for the Florida Peninsula, so it'll be another busy week. We have a favor to ask. If you believe, and then it lists these as bullet points. If you believe the moon has disappeared and was nuked by the government. If you believe hurricanes are steered and controlled by chemtrails and HARP. If you believe every federal agency, including the National Weather Service, now exists and has orders to help a certain political candidate win the election. If you believe all hurricane relief workers are being jailed. If you believe 4 more hurricanes are being steered into Florida this month, can we just keep it off this page? I am trying to push critical weather information out in a calm way. Your rhetoric is a huge distraction we don't need right now. I really don't ask for much, but this would be very helpful.
Okay, who the hell is saying that hurricanes are being steered to Florida? Is there like somebody, going...
A big fan
that's going, Vaya, go to Florida.
For some reason, I pictured like a really big señora with an abanico.
But who's saying that shit?
It's the internet. All these crazy people are saying stupid shit.
Why did I even ask that?
Yeah, like asked and answered. But it's just like, damn it, we can't. Again, I always say like this is why we can't have nice things. But this is why like we can't even give information anymore.
Yeah.
We can't even tell people like, hey, you're about to potentially drown. Here's what you should do without some moron
becoming political and blah, blah, blah,
or
blah,
just
blah.
spouting insane theories. Like, it's just, I'm just annoyed. Don't be that person.
Well, I've told you what I think about, I've said it several times here on the show, what I think about conspiracy theories. I think that most people that believe in conspiracy theories, and the thing is that people that believe in conspiracy theories, it's not like you believe in one, right?
Oh, no, you sign
it's
up
usually
for all.
believe it, right? Yeah. It's an all or nothing.
Yes.
It's all inclusive.
Yeah. It's like Punta Cana.
It's an all inclusive experience. It's like Punta Cana.
Except with a lot more aluminum hats.
All the drinks are included.
They are. The problem is that it's all Kool-Aid.
Oh.
Yeah.
I told you that these people that like believe all these all-inclusive conspiracy theories, it's like I think that it makes them feel more intelligent.
Oh yeah,
and it makes them feel more like, oh, I know something you don't know, or red pills. That's the new thing now.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yes.
Like, oh, we're gonna go down the red pill, and we're gonna take all these red pills and go down the rabbit hole. I'm like, you've been watching The Matrix way too long.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning.
Bring it back.
You've been watching The Matrix way too long. I mean, some of these conspiracy theories are just they're just annoying. It's just like, how can anybody believe that?
I love that they're like not even stupid. They're just annoying.
Listen. When you've reached a certain level of crazy, when there is a sort of, it's not even like fringe, but there is a considerable amount of people that actually believe the earth is flat.
Oh yeah.
I mean, didn't we settle this in 1492? I mean, seriously,
but you can't trust a colonizer.
That's true.
So
that's true.
So there's that. Yeah. It all comes back. That's the Venn diagram.
It's circular like the Earth.
Exactly. Allegedly.
You know that I actually saw something from somebody who believes the Earth is flat, and he was saying that the reason why flat earthers, that's what it's called, believe that is because all pictures that show the curvature of the earth have been taken, from obviously like an airplane or a spacecraft or, whatever, something that is in the air, that it's not something you could prove yourself. And I'm like, well, that's how gravity and the atmosphere and
molecules
work and the earth works, right? Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna pull at that thread,
so my answer to that is like, why don't you just get on an airplane?
Hot air balloon. Hot air balloon. So you can see the full curvature.
I mean, I've seen a bit of a curve, when.
You know what does amaze me though, that with all this flat earther and all these conspiracy theories, not one person, and I challenge you, believes in Pangea. I've yet to hear the Pangea theory make its rear its head,
That they believe that Pangea didn't exist?
No, it's still there.
Oh, that we're still in Pangea?
We're still in Pangea.
So where the hell am I going to when I cross the Atlantic on a plane for 8 hours to go to Europe?
Circles.
Oh, the plane has like video screens on the outside.
Of course.
To make us, yeah, that's a good one.
It's like holographic.
So does that also include when we go on a cruise?
No, because see, the thing is, I've thought about this.
There's just one big lake that we go around.
Exactly. And because it's islands, islands still existed in Pangea.
Are we debunking Pangea?
I think we're bringing it back.
We're bring back Pangea.
Yeah, we're making Pangea happen like Fetch. We're gonna make T-shirts. Make Pangea happen.
Pangea, it never left.
I hear Junior laughing, so I think we're doing a good job of being entertaining.
Yeah, you could have a soundtrack. Where did you go? Pangea.
I'm sure we could find No Mercy and have them sing it.
Okay, so listen. So the theory is that there's like one big lake, and that's where the cruises go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, like not one big lake necessarily, because they're like little offshoots. So islands do still exist. Islands are still a thing.
Okay.
So you can have a couple islands and then but it's not an ocean the way we think of the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, so is there a lost city of Atlantis in Pangea, or is that fake too?
That is real, but that actually sank. But it didn't affect the makeup of Pangea.
Okay, so that's why we still have a ride in Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure, right?
Exactly.
Poseidon's Fury.
Right. Which I don't know if it still exists, but yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. It makes
does.
sense.
You know what? If you just stop and think about it, it'll all click.
Right. Is the North Pole really north?
Unless you're going south.
Right.
Yes.
I always thought, justice for the South Pole, right? The North Pole gets all the love, and nobody ever talks about the South Pole.
Nobody cares about the South Pole. Well, because Santa doesn't live there.
No, it's just Antarctica and a bunch of scientists.
Well, okay, I will say this, though. Now that you brought up the South Pole, total left field. There's a rumor that Lady Gaga is going to embark on like a tour next year.
Is she going to Antarctica?
It says that she's going to play all the continents. And I'm like, I want that bitch to play for penguins. I want her to be in Antarctica.
I mean, she's probably going to give some like long ass answer on like how, the ethereal dream that she had told her that she must perform in Antarctica, and she's not going to perform as Lady Gaga. She's going to be like some type of snow, I don't know, some type of snow creature because
she's going to be born out of a penguin's egg.
Whatever. Wait, penguins lay eggs, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not. Listen, I'm good. I'm good in many things. Biology is not one of them.
Especially not animal biology.
No, I'm not.
Zoology.
I'm not.
No.
I mean,
No.
What's a reptile? What's a mammal?
Wait, what?
I know what it is. I know what it is. I know. Listen, I have 3 college degrees,
but none of them are in zoology.
None of them are in zoology.
No.
But my favorite animal is a giraffe, and a giraffe is a mammal.
This is true.
Listen, whenever I meto la pata and say something really stupid, you know what? I can know everything. I think I know a lot. I know a lot.
You know what? You know a lot. You show up smelling like eternity. You know, I can't ask for everything.
Well,
from
I
you.
am smelling like eternity.
That's why I'm saying you show up smelling like eternity.
I took it back to 1993.
Yes, you did.
Oh yeah,
back when Pangea was real.
Something I wanted to kind of bring up this week, and it's something that you either know or you know. Have you heard of the rapper Tyger?
So I did. Okay, so I didn't know about him, but I heard about him because he got shot.
Yes, but did you know about him before?
No, I did not.
Okay, you hadn't heard any of his songs?
No.
Maybe if you hear some of his songs, you'll know them. I knew who he was because I do follow hip hop, and he is sort of big in Latin hip hop and Cuban hip hop specifically.
Like the reason,
yeah, the reason I wanted to bring him up is because, so for those of you who don't know, as Ish said, Tyger is a Cuban rapper, and he's among Cubans, he's very, very well known. And unfortunately, this past week, he was shot in the head, and whoever shot him just put him in his car and sort of drove the car to near Jackson Memorial. And they found him in the car, shot in the head with 2 cans of gas in the back. So, yeah. There's some shady ass stuff going on there.
Damn.
So he's in intensive care. He's like fighting for his life, and then obviously there's the whole conversation. If he makes it, what quality of life is he going to have? So obviously all these things are going on, and there has been like every night since he got shot, and it's been a few days now. There have been visuals with hundreds of people like praying for him and singing his songs all over Miami. And, it's predominantly Cubans. And here I was having this conversation the other day with my parents, and my parents were like, I don't know who he is. My parents were saying they didn't know who he was.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I asked a few
Your mom
other
only
people,
listens to Paris Hilton.
Then I asked a few people, a few other people in my family of different ages, and they didn't know who he was. And the reason I bring this up is because I think this is one of those examples, and obviously we could speak only to the Cuban community, but I think this probably happens with most immigrant communities, that there's sort of within the community, there's sort of factions and divisions. And I think that he's a perfect example, or this situation is a perfect example on how, specifically with Cubans, you have many different factions, many different people, because you have a part of the Cuban community, which I like to call new Cubans, right? No, but it's serious. It's people that have been here. It's not only people that have been here a few years. It's people who grew up there, whose parents grew up there, whose grandparents grew up in the system in Cuba, which is very different than the experience of like our parents and then how we were raised, or whether we were born here, like I was born there, but you were born here, but your parents were raised here, my parents were not, but we've still been here a long time, right? So what I just find really interesting about this is how it's so apparent, the division between the community, because one half of the community is like, who is this man? Like, we've never, it's like, it's not even that they don't even follow his music. It's like, who is this person? Right. And then to the other half, I like to call our side of the Cuban community the Que Pasa USA community, right?
Change approved.
Yeah, we're the ones who, we talk about Que Pasa USA all the time on this show. Que Pasa USA perfectly captured a place in time. It captured Miami and the Cuban community in the 70s and 80s perfectly.
Yeah.
Perfectly. We are the Peñas, you know. We talk like them. We see things the way we saw them or our parents did. We had those same experiences. So it's sort of like that community versus, you know,
the newer
community. Like we've talked about this lady that came from Cuba last year, La Diosa.
Oh, La Diosa.
Con la papaya de 40 libras.
That is a heavy papaya.
40 libras. That's a.
I mean, what's the limit for Cuba?
You know, but to Cubans, to new Cubans, she is quote unquote una diosa. Like
she's a celebrity.
I mean, that woman hadn't been here 3 or 4 months, and she sold out an arena here. And whereas the other, like Pasa USA, half of Cubans were like, who's she? Like,
Diosa de qué?
But she was big in Cuba, right? So if you haven't been there in 30, 40, 50, 60 years, who are these people? So I just think it speaks to, you know, the fact that within a community, there could be such factions and such divisions and such different worlds, because those are two very different worlds, you know, and I it's not that I belong to the new Cuban community, because I don't, but I could straddle the two in the sense that I could sort of peek in and see, you know, that happens from, you know, having an office in Hialeah for 14 years. You know,
sometimes you didn't want to peek.
Being a Kendall boy, you know, but my other foot, Hialeah. But I'm able to sort of see that. So I could see and appreciate really the differences, and it's two different worlds. And I just find that very interesting, because people always think that communities are homogenized within themselves. Right. That there's a certain amount of groupthink, which there is to a certain extent. But that everybody is the same, everybody thinks the same, everybody likes the same thing. And again, I imagine that happens within all communities.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But you know, being that we are Cuban and we identify very much being Cuban and Cuban American, that again, there's such differences within the community.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say it happens also in several communities. Like even within like the gay community, there's the like the older gay celebrities or singers or whatever, and then you have the Insta celebs, you know. But I also think it's interesting, because the last time I think we had a situation like that, and yet similar but different, right, was Albita. Mm-hmm. Because when Albita came over from Cuba, she was already Albita, right? I mean, in terms of being a singer and a performer in Cuba. And yet when she came here, people didn't know who she was, but I feel like she assimilated very quickly. And I don't know if that was...
My parents knew who she was.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But Albita came in the early 90s.
Coño, made me feel old.
Yeah, no, she did. She came in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And... so, like, for example, my parents in the early 90s had been out of Cuba 10, 12 years, because my parents left in 80.
Coño, verdad.
Right? So she was, I don't know if she was a singer, but they knew who she was.
Right.
They knew who she was.
La conocían. Uh-huh.
Right. Because, 10, 12 years, when when you're a kid, 10, 12 years is forever. But when you're an adult, it's like, oh, it's 10 years ago.
Right. But again, I guess I'm applying my parents and my grandparents, because remember, they came in like the 60s. So by the time she came here, they'd already been in this country like 30 years.
Remember, I mean, this is really taking it back. La novela Mariaelena with Lucia Mende. You love to recreate the intro. That soap opera, which was shot here in Miami, and that was like a big thing, because that was like one of the first major international soap operas that was filmed on location in Miami. That was in the early 90s. And funny enough, they had an episode all about Hurricane Andrew. There were a lot of actors in that soap opera that were from Cuba. And I remember my parents watching that soap opera and be like, mira, esa fulana de whatever show. And that was fulana. Granted, my parents came in 1980. Your parents came in the 60s. So that's why I say it's a little bit different. But no, like... I just find that this is like night and day. It's like two different.
But it also doesn't help with like what we've talked about many times, where it's like everybody's siloed too, right? So obviously this generation, I mean, let's not even talk about the Cuban situation. Like we've talked about here many times, where it's like there will be headlines, articles on like Entertainment Weekly about like rapper XYZ, you know, shot or blah blah blah, and I'll just be like, I don't know who that is.
Dude, do you remember? Speaking of Cubans, in the early or mid '90s, when this woman came, Mariaelena, that she sang "I Will Always Love You" in Spanish.
Yes, la Calé.
That my parents were like, "Ay, lo canta tan bonito como Whitney Houston." I'm like, stop. I'm like, don't get ahead of yourself.
Well, she had a very lovely voice.
She did, but I mean,
Yeah, she's passed, right?
No.
She's still with us?
Mariaelena?
Yeah.
Not that I have heard. She wasn't old. She wasn't.
Well, you don't have to be old to die.
Well, I mean, but why did you assume she had died?
I don't know. I just thought she was like una señora already.
She wasn't.
Was she like 35?
She was in her 30s, probably. Yeah.
It's that
Did
thing.
you just assume somebody was dead because you didn't hear about them in a while?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a great assumption. So half of our high school senior graduating class is dead.
Maybe a third, but about half.
You know, it's so funny that, I mean, this may age us a little bit. We don't have to say exactly when we graduated, but this may age us a little bit. Okay. I remember when, in the early 2000s, when Classmates was a thing. You remember that
Classmates.com?
page? Classmates.com. This was Classmates.com came out, I feel, right before MySpace. Yeah. Like right before MySpace. Had a very small window. Yeah. I hope they really sold that thing for billions of dollars or whatever. Yeah. And I remember, you know, finding, you know, obviously people that we went to high school with and being like, oh, look at Fulano. He's in Connecticut. Look at Fulano. I mean, when Classmates came out in the early 2000s, I don't think any of us were yet in the stage that we had graduated college.
No,
we were still in college,
yeah,
of college age,
or like senior year at most.
Because I remember by the time I moved to Michigan to go to law school, like MySpace was already going on. Yeah. But yeah, Classmates was like the shit. And it's funny because you could put pictures.
I wonder if it's still around.
You could put pictures, but if to put a picture, you had to pay the premium thing, and nobody paid that.
Who the hell's gonna pay for it?
So nobody had pictures.
No, let's see. Let's look up Classmates.
Are you looking Are you going to Classmates.com?
I'm going to see if it's still active. Classmates.com. It is still active. Register and look for your yearbook now.
Okay, well.
Okay.
I mean.
You know what? But that's a smart pivot because I'm already connecting with everybody else, but if I can find the yearbook that's been digitized, that's the thing I would look for.
I guess.
Yeah.
But then again, you could always go back to your high school and get your yearbook or order it.
Okay, but what if you don't live there? And, you know,
listen, you're talking to the guy who's the editor-in-chief of his yearbook.
Which you may have mentioned once or 17 times.
And I may have about 4 or 5 copies of our yearbook, but you know.
You have that many copies?
I was the editor-in-chief of the yearbook. Yeah, I was going to have
and like apparently 4 or 5 copies. Thief.
No. Listen, I put that shit together. I'm taking as many copies as I want.
Your blood, sweat, and tears were there.
And you were there. You saw how much work I put into. I had keys to the school. What 17-year-olds has keys to the school?
I don't have an answer for that.
Ferris Bueller had keys to school.
You know what? That's a great comparison. Actually, yes. If anybody was going to have it, it'd be Ferris. Just kick the mic stand. I'm still getting used to the setup here.
I kicked the mic stand.
I kicked the mic stand.
I don't think I've ever kicked the mic stand. I kicked the... No, what's kicking the can? Is that when you die?
No, that's kicking the bucket.
Okay, when do you kick the can?
When you're moving something down like you don't want to do it now, so you're kicking the can down the road.
Wow, there's such a difference between a can and a bucket.
Yeah, why a bucket?
I mean, both of them hold some type of volume, right?
Right. Right. It's not like
usually a liquid. One is a can, one is a bucket. One means just leaving things further down the road, and another one means dying.
Va a patear el cubo.
You don't say that in Spanish.
Doesn't mean anything. Va a patear la
lata.
Voy a patear la lata. Doesn't mean anything either.
It just sounds so different in Spanish.
It doesn't mean anything.
I mean, it's not better. Some of our favorite Spanish words? Portarretrato.
Hipoteca.
Hipoteca is a great one.
It is.
It's not a mortgage. It's una hipoteca.
Oh, it's a different thing.
Una hipoteca reversible.
Oh. Is that what you get right before you're about to kick the bucket?
Una hipoteca reversible. And instead of Tom Selleck, you could have Eduardo Llanes. Or Don Francisco,
who got mad love this week on SNL.
Okay, actually, you know what? That's one of the things I wanted to come up with. So
great transition.
Last week, this SNL who's killing it this year, by the way. Okay, before we go into the Don Francisco thing, I sort of have to sort of slightly pivot to me because did you watch the episode?
I did not. I just saw the skit.
You didn't see SNL?
I just saw the skit.
Okay. So SNL this week, and we're going to get to the skit in a minute, had the return of the Lonely Island. So for those of you who've known me for a minute, I am a huge... You don't like the Lonely Island. You don't like Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon. ¿Qué te gusta a ti?
Gumdrops and lollipops.
Oh, yeah. No, you know, all these freaking people that are hilarious, but, you know, put on...
He uses that word hilarious so freely.
Okay, well, you know, let's not get into this fight that you and I have about what is funny and what is not on our first happy episode in the new studio, okay? So I'm a big fan of The Lonely Island, and they had a new digital short.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do you know what it's about?
No.
Sushi Glory Hole.
Is that a drag queen?
No, you could get your sushi in a glory hole.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess they could both serve raw meat.
Okay, that's not where I was going with that. See, you always have to take it there.
You're the one who brought up glory holes.
I was only talking about what the song was about.
You bring up glory hole, I'm going to bring up
I
meat.
mean, listen, in the summer of 2009, this guy right here was jamming to I'm on a Boat with T-Pain. I think that's what... I think I'm probably the person who's listened to that song the most.
Outside of possibly T-Pain when he was like producing it, yes. Yeah.
That was like my jam.
Yeah.
Like,
I do.
Anything and everywhere we did, I'm like, I'm on a boat.
Was it the flippy floppies?
No, my favorite line is, fuck trees, I climb buoys, motherfucker.
I just don't get it.
No, of course you don't get it. You know, okay, then we got one of those, whatever, Pee La Pew drag queens and you go crazy. But no,
hey, listen, that's Madam Pee La Pew.
Okay, sure. Pero, you know, freaking Lonely Island, it's not funny.
I don't get it. And listen, I have a very good sense of humor.
You mean to tell me.
But I don't get it.
You mean to tell me that you didn't find Dick in a Box funny? You didn't find Mother Lover funny, part 2. You didn't find
But I will say this. Mira, I did like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I did enjoy him.
Do you remember the one they did with Lady Gaga?
It's not gay
It's
in a three-way.
okay
Yeah.
in a 3-way. With a honey in the middle, there's some leeway. Junior, do you like The Lonely Island? Oh, that's my guy right there. That's my guy right there. Okay, let's go back to what.
Yes, so back to Don Francisco.
Back to Don Francisco, which I feel is always a good place to go back to, right? Don Francisco.
It is.
Okay, another pivot. Before we get to Don Francisco.
Are we on Friends?
This is what we do here on Pero Let Me Tell You. It's episode 319. People know this about us.
This is true. But now they can see it happen.
Isn't it a thing that anytime somebody posts something about Don Francisco, people are like...
They freaked out when you did it.
When I did it for Hispanic
Yes.
The people are like, wait, hold on, you scared?
Is he still with us? Is he okay? Do we have to light candles?
Listen, we've talked about this here on the show. For years, like 20 years before the Celia Cruz died, I would tell you, the day that Celia Cruz dies, we were like in high school, and I would tell you this, the day Celia Cruz dies, Miami will stop. Will stop. And we saw that happen. Yeah, I mean, there was like 300,000 people in Miami, including us, that went to her wake at the Freedom Tower, and then they did the same thing in New York. The world stopped. The day Don Francisco passes, which hopefully will be many, 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 many years from now, I think anybody that speaks Spanish is going to have it's a national day of mourning. Like, I think that day, if you grew up in a Latin household, you need to not work that day. You got to honor the man. And then that Saturday,
because of course you have to do it on a Saturday, right?
We all come out as a worldwide community and celebrate Don Francisco. Many, many, many years from now.
I propose what we should do in his honor on that Saturday.
What? Dress up as a Chacal la trompeta.
Damn, you read my mind.
I mean,
we should all just come out and like very sadly.
We could dress up as La Cuatro.
But very sadly, just be like. Dun, 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 dun.
Long live Don Francisco.
Yes.
Anyway, so going back to Don Francisco, the reason why we started this and we went on about 5,000 tangents. Okay,
that's how we get to Pangaea.
So, did they have Sabado Gigante in Pangea? You think so?
They did, because the continents were all together.
Right.
Yes. It was just easier to watch.
Oh, that's right. So, it was Sabado Gigante Internacional.
Exactly.
So, yeah. But is it really internacional if we're all connected?
Because of language barriers. Yes.
Okay. Sure. Okay, sure. Whatever you say. Anyway, so this past week in SNL, Marcelo Hernandez, formerly from Only in Dade, who boy. We love, we are so proud of him. He's a regular now in Sabado Gigante. They did a skit of Sabado Gigante, which what I love about that skit was you could tell that was all Marcelo.
All his skits, you can tell he is authentic.
Because Sabado Gigante has been off the air since 2015, so it's been a minute. And they do the skit about Sabado Gigante and sort of like the ridiculousness of the show. And the reason why we always say representation matters, representation matters. We sound like a broken record. Representation matters is because you need people like Marcelo Hernandez, who is from Miami, he's half Cuban and half Dominican, but he's Latino. He's from Miami. He grew up with this, having those voices and being in the room when these skits are written. Because you know what I loved was
the shout out to 23.
When he said the shout out to 23.
Yep.
When he said Univision, which could be channel 23, which all of us here in Miami know. Canal 23 is Univision.
Yeah.
And it's those small little details, like the devil's in the detail, that you know that skit was 100% authentic, written by somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Not once did they say caliente. Esta fiesta está caliente.
No, it was also not a fiesta.
It's not a fiesta.
It was
Esta
not,
fiesta
no.
Está caliente. No.
And they had a chacal.
And I had a Chacal. And the lion, which the lion is more updated.
Yeah.
Because at the end, when the Chacal would bring the lion will come and take you to the lair and eat you up. We had to make it a little bit more dramatic.
Well,
it's Sabado Gigante.
We love the drama. We love the drama. Bro, he even had like a hat similar to one that
Did
Don
you
Francisco
see that?
actually
When
wore.
he put on the hat, I cracked up. Because again, the devil's in the details.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Don Francisco would always change the hat between the singers and the Chacal de la Trompeta. So, and that became like a shtick of that segment. And again, I was like, you could tell that segment was, pitched by him, was written by him, and that was all his idea, and he had the input on that. That wasn't written by some, New Yorkino that
right. No, or a white person for all intents and purposes.
A New Yorkino white person,
right? Because it could have been written, let's say, by un Puerto Riqueño or un Venezolano, and maybe it would have had a different slant on it. Obviously, because Don Francisco's Chilean,
right?
Chileno. But what I'm saying is, but to your point of like authenticity matters, right? You can tell that Marcelo is the one who had input there. He's the one that had input when your prima was on the show and they did the skit about the Cuban students, who started a new school in like Connecticut or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like it.
My prima being Ana de Armas.
Yeah, they are related.
We are related.
Yeah. It's not somebody who's just like, oh, I've got this really funny caliente idea.
Right.
It's somebody who understands the nuances.
Right, and it didn't have to be somebody from Miami, just somebody who grew up watching that show. Yeah. I mean, the Miami thing is channel 23, but somebody who grew up watching that show, and I freaking loved it. And it came out of nowhere. I was just watching, and I'm like, did they say Sabado Gigante? Like,
did you get a little excited?
I did.
You thought maybe SNL was going to bring it back?
I hope that show gets retooled.
It won't. They tried something similar-ish, like maybe a year or two after it ended on Telemundo, and it just didn't work. I just think that the TV landscape right now is not the place.
I think with the right host, it can. But it would have to be, and I can't think of the right host, but it would have to be somebody that you'd be like, yes. When they pick somebody or cast somebody in something, you go, yes, it makes sense. That one. Because that show, Sabado Gigante, was what it was because of Don Francisco.
Yeah.
It was a fun show. It was great. They had all these segments and all this stuff. But what made that show what it was is Don Francisco. And I'm so sorry that there's people who have grown up without that show. Because it's been off the air for 9 years. So
yeah, almost 10 at this point.
Yeah, it went off the air in like August of 2015. Yeah. I still have the last episode recorded on my DVR.
I expect
and some years
less.
ago, I put it on just randomly, and my mom was like, I did it on purpose. When my parents are coming on, and I had it on my DVR, and I just put it on.
Was it on a Saturday?
It was on a Saturday. And wait. I had the last episode recorded, but then I recorded like 4 episodes, like the, 4th episode before.
Okay.
I recorded because the last episode was like a special episode, right? I just wanted like a regular Sabado Gigante episode, and I put it on. I was like, ¿y eso? ¿Qué están haciendo con Sábado Gigante? And I'm like, no, nada, que tú no viste que trajeron a Sábado Gigante. And for like a second, I had her fooled. I think that the reason she knew that it was fake is because Don Francisco has gone gray since then.
Yeah, he reverse aged.
Yeah, so there, you know, he was whatever.
he was a good 10 years younger.
Como dice que dijo,
Sábado Gigante.
el mejor pretexto para quedarse en casa. Which now can be, pero let me tell you, on video.
There you go. See, I'm saying we can do, instead of Sábado Gigante, I don't know, Viernes Grande?
I mean, I don't think we could go on for 3.5 hours. And I think Junior back there would probably like, screw this shit.
No. We could.
No, we could. We could.
Okay, Junior's fist pumping, so I think he's on board.
Okay. Well,
he's on board.
There'll be a special edition of Pero, let me tell you.
We can do like a telethon.
Are you going to come out in a unicycle?
I mean, I'm going to fall immediately after. We can get Charo.
I mean... Stranger things have happened.
This is true. True.
Anyway.
All right. So is it about time for us to have our
soda time?
Our soda time.
It's soda time, people.
I know. It's just, you know, all the, on top of everything else, the lights, you know, we're a little more parched. So it's time for soda.
Soda time. So yes, of course we're going to continue having our last soda of the desert. So we were thinking of we usually give our last sodas to 2 different entities or people, but today, since it's a special episode and it's a new era for Pero Let Me Tell You, we decided to sort of go back a little bit and give it to
Pangea,
who we call the godfather of our podcast. And
this guy right here.
The reason we are probably on episode 319 shooting in a studio with producers is because of this guy who we love and is the biggest pain in our ass, but we love, and that's Seth Burger Beast.
Yes.
So we freaking love the guy. Him and Marcela are family at this point, and we just thought it would be really cool in this like sort of
just felt right
new moment, like a big step for Pero Let Me Tell You to sort of go back and give a shout out. Who he's gotten our last soda a few times.
Well, he deserves it. Listen, not only would we probably not be here, Ping Pong Pollo probably wouldn't exist either.
Ping Pong Pollo would just be frying at home, and people just still telling me, "Oh, your chicken wings are good." So to bring him back to SNL, Steph can be one of like, what is it, the 5 Club, the people that have hosted SNL at least 5
Club. Yes.
Right. I don't know if we've given 5 sodas to Steph, but
we'll combine sodas and co-hostings.
Okay,
that'll get him up to 5 for sure.
Okay, so. Seth, this last soda is for you.
Yes, thank you again. Oh, see, that threw me off. I'm not used to hearing other voices.
Sound effects.
Yeah.
Wow, you know what's so cool that now when we finish recording this, we could just go home and we don't have to bring this.
I know.
I know.
That's why Junior is my new favorite person in the room.
Yeah. People, do you know that like for the last several years, those little pieces of video that you saw that was shot with our phones, like balancing it on a tripod with like a dollar store lighting, literally.
Yeah. And you know what? Bastantísimo.
And then I would have to edit everything in CapCut and be like, fuck my life. FML.
Yeah. While I was getting home at 1:30 in the morning
and all that,
pulling together the episode
so,
and inserting ads.
So it sort of feels good, but But anyway, we're super happy again to start this new chapter of Pero Let Me Tell You with all of you guys. And we had said this a couple of weeks ago. Pero Let Me Tell You has been on this is our 7th season, and in all that time there had been different people that had sort of approached us to work with us to do things with the podcast, and it never felt right, and never felt, we never felt like this is something we want to do. Ish and I are very protective of the brand. This is something that we built up from the ground up, so it's like our baby, and we're very, very protective of it. But when we started meeting with the whole group at Cultura Media, and we started seeing what they are about, and joining the podcast with them and being part of the Cultura family, it felt instantly right. And we're like, okay, this is how it's supposed to feel. So we're just really, really happy to be part of this and to be working with such an amazing group of people that are so creative, that are so great. And it's a new era for Pero Let Me Tell You.
Yes, we're in the studio era.
The studio era. Okay, whatever we want to call it. So anyway, Bueno, everybody, we hope you listened, laughed, and learned, and looked.
I know. I'm like, where do we look? I don't have to look at you when you deliver
but
this
I'm
now.
not going to, I mean, I'll do it today since it's the first video episode, but I'm not going to do listen, laugh, and learn, look. I mean, we already have it on that time.
That's true.
You know, it's... So yeah, no, look, it's gonna be too much of a tongue twister. No. So we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. And as remember, always grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your cafecito. And thank you so much for joining us, everybody. That was episode 319.
Yes, thank you, everybody. See you. Bye-bye.
See you next time.